Hi there! Today this video is going to talk about the tone Catullus uses in Catullus 3. So my goal in this is specifically to target the language itself to try to interpret the tone he uses. Now obviously there's a lot of different interpretations, so this is just going to be mine, but I put together some notes and hopefully this will go well. Alright, so first what I want to do is divide up the poem into sections. And these sections will help us look at the areas in which the tone changes, because there are points, Catullus obviously goes back and forth between certain sections. So I'm just gonna mark off the areas that I feel are where the tone in the poem changes. Essentially, this allows us just to group things together so that we can look at them more. Because otherwise, you're just gonna end up going into each thing, and it's just not gonna work out very well. So there we go. And it's gonna be a total of about 7 different sections of various lengths. And then, once again, there's no particular number of lines set here. It's just a matter of what tone I feel he uses in each section. So let's go into the first section here, and this is the start of the poem. So, and generally I characterize this section as having an earnest tone, and what does that is I see imperative verb, boom. We get vocative. So, and what this is doing is, he's trying to grab the listener's attention, but more importantly, he's trying to spark interest. He's speaking with, a lot of strength, and that's what this, he's saying, listen. So we see a lot of strength in this verb right here, and this is what the language does. So he's speaking with authority almost, and he's you see confidence in his tone up here in this first section. He's saying, listen, Venuses and Cupids and whatever number of wise, good men. So that's how I feel. And so earnest, that's how you characterize that. Now move on to the next section. In here, I characterize this as actually a conventional tone. So, and exactly what I mean by this is that you don't see anything too special here. It's really just a matter of actually, hold on, let me add this line right here, change that. But for me, what happens is just really just a matter of him saying, here we are, the bird is dead, so it's very sad. He's basically just stating the facts. The bird is dead. The bird, the darling of my girl, that's what we're talking about here. And then, she loved it with more than her nest. So there's nothing too special in terms of the language. In other parts of the poem, you see is amazing language, just beautiful and well composed and thought out. And really, here he's just this is just laying out sentence after sentence. So really, and the purpose of this is, why does he use such basic language when he's such a great author? Well, he's doing this to reflect the sadness, really, because it's just very somber and there's nothing so overdone, and that comes later on. So we go into the next section, section 3, right around here, number 3. So what's going on here? So here, what I see is, interestingly enough, I picked this erudite tone, and I have to justify this. So, and what I mean by that is just scholarly, authoritative. He's speaking, from the wise man, the high class society kind of position. He's using all these big fancy words, and this fanciful language. So now let's go into the text, and where do we actually see that? So he's saying, he's using, just think about the way in English this would sound. He's saying, oh, for, you start a sentence with for, you basically sound like some kind of high class person. That's just not how people talk in conventional or colloquial ways. And you see, these phrases like "tam bene quam," it just has this tone to it that just rings of, scholarly and fanciful. Modo look. That's just, and it gets almost overdone and playful and sometimes, but just, Pippi Abad. I mean, this is just, it's language that is beautiful, but at the same time just speaks of scholar. It's just scholarly, really. That's what you see. It's very educated language he uses, and not something that you would see maybe someone of a low class society use. And he's doing this because it's overall a happy tone. He's, if anywhere in this poem is happy, this is it, because he's talking about how great the bird and the girl, they got along, and it was just great, and this is the nice part of the poem, and then things start to go downhill. So we'll go into section 4 now. And I characterize this section as very daunting. So you just saw this, playful, high class, oh, everything's great, everything's lovely, and then suddenly, dun dun dun, you know, this shadowy. So what makes this language daunting? So tenebrosum. Next, and you see the contrast between it per iter. So it's saying the bird, goes on a journey, but these tiny little words here, and then tenebrosum. It's just daunting, and there's this challenge and this idea of this shadows and this darkness, and suddenly this this tiny bird and this big big daunting word that Catullus throws at the audience, and in that moment when you hear it, you're just like, wow, what's gonna happen now? This it's like the big rain cloud just comes in suddenly on the break, happy parade, and just takes out the people here. So to go back into it again more, there's this idea of mystery. I think some intrigue too. I'll add that in there, of kind of like, oh, what's going to happen next? This doesn't sound good. And even just like the basic translation of this line right here, from where no one, they say no one comes back, and they say no one returns. It's like, oh, this bird's in trouble here. And then that's when you go on to the next section, section 5. So what makes this interesting, actually, is that you start with this at. And this is what we call the emphatic but. Interestingly enough, yeah, that's actually a thing. And what this does is, this is Catullus' clue that, hey, I'm changing my tone, look for a major change in here. And then how you'd read this in English would be like, da 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 da, blah blah blah, and then, but, dun 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 dun. So, in the way it's actually read, it changes, but that's not something we're really going to look at today. I want to look more into what's actually, being said, because it turns into more of a emotional than, and also I see gloomy in here too. No, you see, it's just, you see words like malai tenebrae, and those are just very negative words. And he's saying, oh, I wish, all these terrible things for you. So he's actually becoming kind of scornful too. And this is where Catullus definitely takes a marked negative tone in the poem. And that's definitely for sure. And you see that continue on. So we're going to section 6 now. And you see, right off the bat, you see, oh, vocative, negative, vocative, all this stuff. And he's just kind of shouting, really. And that's how it would be read too. Is, oh, facta male, oh, misere passer. So suddenly, you see this terrible, as a audience, you're like, oh, he's going crazy, he's off the rails. So in that, anytime you have, oh, and, oh, terrible deeds, so he's actually angry. This is where his sadness and his emotion, it just turns into pure anger and hatred and rage in this one line. He's saying, oh, miserable bird, it's just, everything is awful, and he's just kind of flipping out, really. He's kind of lost it. And then again, you see a little bit of a change as we go into section 7 down here. And he's still, in this section, he's still what I would say morose. It's despondent. He loses the vocative case in this section. He kind of goes back. He's not addressing anyone anymore. He's just kind of saying, oh, your work, brings tears to my girl's eyes. So, I mean, it's still sad, but it takes away the anger that was there in the previous lines. So, he's, there's a lot of sadness here, but what you notice is that the section 7 does connect back kind of to number 5. So, if you go back there, you notice that there's a similar tone. It kind of goes back to that emotional, gloomy, and morose is along the same lines. It's just slightly different. So he kind of goes back and forth. He sways between, being at first he's sad and gloomy, and then he goes anger, and then it just kind of goes back to sadness again. And I think that may reflect the way he actually processes his feelings. Maybe he does go back and forth. Maybe he's not entirely certain. And these are questions that we don't really know the answer to. We can only guess from reading his Latin text. So, now that we've looked at that, I hope this was helpful in some way. Once again, it's just my opinion, but I've tried to back it up as much as I could here in a short amount of time. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.